going on, everyone? Welcome back to another video. If you don't know who I am, that means you're new. I'm Mark. What's good with y'all? Go check out my other videos. Check them out. But first, stay on this one. I think this is a neat little video. I'm pretty sure most of y'all know these things. However, today we're going to talk about 3 ways that you will get yourself kicked out of a gun range. So we're going to talk about 3 things that you can do that almost certainly will guarantee that you get kicked out of a gun range. Do I recommend you do these? No, obviously not. Everything I'm about to state is very unsafe. I'm going to talk about why it's just not the smartest thing to do, first off. Second off, I'm going to talk about the overall safety aspect when it comes to everybody else in the range. So on top of explaining what you can do that's going to get yourself kicked out, I'm going to explain to you why you'll get kicked out. So, for starters, this is a very animated one, I guess one could say. But looking down the barrel of your gun, apparently, look, it's bad enough when you can catch it on video. You can find videos all over the internet of bozos staring right down the barrel of their gun, looking right into it. Some of them you can even find videos, some places you can even find videos where a negligent discharge happens while they're doing that. Yeah, don't look down the barrel of your gun, guys. Especially if there's a chance that it's loaded. If you're at a gun range, maybe looking down the barrel of your gun won't be the best idea. Now, I'm sure some of y'all are sitting there, thinking in your head, well, what if I know the gun is unloaded? Things along those lines. I still wouldn't recommend staring down the barrel of your gun, especially if you're trying to see if there's any form of malfunction or issues with it. If you're worried about there being issues or a malfunction with it, chances are it is not unloaded, guys. So don't point the damn gun at your face. So, maybe I'm crazy here for stating that. But yeah, no, you will get kicked out very quickly from a range for looking down the barrel of your own gun. Why is that? Well, because, we'll take a... Actually, you know what? I have no problem naming off this range because it did indeed happen there, and it's very unfortunate, but it did indeed happen. If you guys are from Florida, especially Central Florida, you've heard of the Reload shooting range. Great range. I have nothing against the range as a whole. I've been there a couple of times, gone shooting. RSOs are okay. Sometimes they're up your tail, but sometimes they're also not. My whole point, though, is simply that, somebody, they visited the water park and hopped on the sewer slide there. And that got on the news. Yeah, so there's a lot of reasons why ranges in particular will kick you out for staring down the barrel of your own gun. But that's a pretty good example from a range that's pretty close to me as well. Yeah, please don't do that, guys. Number 2, not having the muzzle of your firearm. It kind of has to go with number 1, but also not really. Not having the muzzle of your firearm pointed down range. If you have the muzzle of your gun pointed to the sides, back, anywhere else that is not on range, guess what? You are putting yourself and others in danger. The gun might not be loaded, but guess what? Nobody else is going to know that. So even if the gun is unloaded and you're sitting there just waving the gun around instead of keeping the muzzle down range, people are going to think you're waving a loaded gun at them. And I don't know about you guys, but I don't respond real well when I think somebody's waving a loaded gun at me. I don't. I tend to get very upset very quickly. I don't know about you guys. Maybe I'm just, super aggressive here for being the one to say. I get pretty pissed off if somebody, even if it's unloaded and I think it's loaded, I'm going to be pissed at them until, even then, even if they show me it's unloaded, I'm going to be like, bro, there's still safety. There's no excuse for your muzzle to not be pointed down range. If you're going to sit here and be a fool with it, you're running a pretty high risk of getting kicked out of the range. You're putting other people in danger by flagging them. You're putting yourself in danger by possibly flagging yourself. It's just not a good time. It's not worth it. There's no need for that. If you want your friend to shoot your gun, you don't need to take your gun out of your bay to go to their bay to shoot. You know what you can do? You can call them over to you. That's one. 2, if you and your friend are like, hey, let's, switch guns. Let's, shoot each other's gun instead of, me just shooting your gun or you just shooting my gun. You know what you do? You don't sit there and both swap guns. You just swap bays you're at. There are ways around it to where you don't have to worry about the muzzle of your firearm being anywhere than pointed down range. Like, that's the issue. All of these things are very much so avoidable, yet for some reason, people just don't always avoid them. And it happens, but guess what? I'm going to tell you this right now. If you do these things, the chances are you will get kicked out of a gun range. Now, moving on from number 2, which I think we can all agree, number 2, pretty bad itself. Number 1 is definitely really, really, really bad. But number 2 is pretty freaking bad too. Now, number 3, and this one isn't what a lot of people are going to expect it to be. I feel like some people are thinking I'm going to say something like, oh, rapid firing, something along those lines. If you guys have seen me shoot, if you guys have seen my YouTube shorts, you will know I'm a fan of rapid firing. I've gotten complained at by RSOs about rapid firing. But no, that's not what this is about. Ignoring the cold range. When you hear that call, cold range, everybody, cold range. Do not shoot. Unload your firearms and set them down at the bay. You will hear that call, something along those lines. And do you know what that means? That means you do not shoot your gun, no matter the circumstances. Why? Because guess what? With a cold range, that means there's a couple of situations that could be happening. 1, there could be a medical emergency happening. That's one that you have to think about. 2, they're more likely than not, this is the more likely than not situation, especially if you're working at, or not working, but you're shooting at an outdoor range, people are going to get their targets. So if you start shooting downrange when people are walking downrange to grab their targets, you are risking shooting people. You are risking shooting innocent range goers. There's no reason for that. Who wants to do that? Who wants to do that? You're running the risk, beyond just getting kicked out, you're running the risk of an attempted murder, basically. I'm not sure exactly how they're going to classify that, because I really don't feel that any judge would look at you and say, oh, yeah, this was clearly an accident. I'm pretty sure a majority of judges would say, well, you heard that call for a cold range and you grabbed your gun and decided to load it and start shooting. Now somebody's dead. It's kind of your fault. And yeah, I mean, ignoring the cold range call is one of the dumbest things you can really do. The reason why they give the cold range call is solely to ensure the safety of people. Now, some of y'all might think, hey, I think they call range cold a little too often. I'm sure some people would think that. Go to a different range then. Some ranges don't call, a cold range anywhere near as often as others do. I know some that call a cold range every 20 to 30 minutes, or maybe it's some very short period of time. It's really not an extremely long period of time. But my whole point that I'm getting at is I can pretty much guarantee you're going to get kicked out if you ignore the cold range call, especially if you're at an indoor range. If you're at an indoor range and you hear the cold range call, that means somebody is 100% going out onto the firing line. This means if you shoot, you run the risk. Once again, guys, I have to stress this. You run the risk of shooting an innocent person. I don't know how else I can stress enough why they would kick you out for ignoring a cold range call, but you were putting other people's lives in danger. All in all, I think that about wraps it up for this video. I don't want to keep going in circles here. However, I feel these 3 things are, decently important to, at least put out there, hey, if you do these things, you're probably, if not going to, you will get kicked out of the gun range for doing these things. But I figure, let's at least explain why. You know what I mean? With that being said, y'all make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share, hit that bell. When you hit that bell, hit all and. Whether or not, I can't even believe I'm saying whether or not you agree with me on this one. But If you, for some reason, think anything I suggested is okay, well, didn't suggest, hold on, let me rephrase, not suggesting you do any of these things. Any of the things I've listed, if any of the things I've listed, if you think they're a good idea, I would like to hear why or why not. Yeah, no. Guys, don't do any of the things I've said. I feel the need to say that. Don't do any of the things I've said, for these are extremely dangerous. They are unsafe for you and other individuals. And chances are, even if nothing ends up happening, you will probably get kicked out for life of whatever range you're at. With that being said, y'all make sure to check out all my other videos. Y'all make sure to stay legal, stay safe, stay dangerous. Have a good one, y'all. Peace.